Shalom, Mr. First and foremost, I do want to give all praises, all honor, all glory to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahushua, Bashem, Kakadash, the born to the apostles, and else great millstone, for teaching us his truth, peace, and blessings to the whole of Israel. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father in Hebrew, but Hashem is the name of Yahweh Shai is the name of the Begotten Son. Back on the lesson, I see within the title, we're going to be going to Civil War is Brewing. As we're seeing the division amongst the people, especially in power, as you're going to see right here, dealing with these governors, pushing out these decrees to pretty much go against ICE, and obviously not with these decisions that are being made, dealing with these troops being sent out, and people being taken up, especially young children, away from their parents, and all these different things. As well as you have the people are starting to get fed up and are starting to somewhat retaliate. So chaos is just getting ready to erupt on absolutely all levels. But I came across these two videos and thought I'd make a lesson diving into. I saw one of the brothers also really making a lesson going to civil war, the division that we are seeing, which really we've been seeing, but now it's going to be heightened, for lack of better words. So we're going to go into two quick videos, get a couple of scriptures, just we're going to go into the situation at hand, the things that we are seeing and are going to see, especially a lot more of. So get that out the way, and that'll be the point.
Signing a bill, the first in the nation, saying enough. To ICE, unmask. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of?
So this is also going to cause, problems dealing with the people that support ICE, that support Trump, and all these different things. And really, you have been seeing the division and tensions, that were there already. Especially before Trump was even put into office, and you pretty much saw all the fighting, amongst the people, and especially after. So what's in further going to that civil war that is brewing, and just the chaos is getting ready to erupt, man. Hey, we are in these times. Habakkuk 2 and 3 for the vision is, I want to say, yet for an appointed time, if you're paraphrasing. And we're in those appointed times. Prophecy is speaking, man. These are the things that we are beginning to see. Especially dealing with Jeremiah chapter 30 and verse 7, dealing with the time of Jacob's trouble. We're in it, man. And it's going to get a whole lot worse as we continue to progress latter in these end days, man. And you Israelites, you Jakes, you so-called Mexicans, you Native Americans, so-called African Americans, also dealing with the Southern Kingdom. I'll speak of the Northern Kingdom. The tribes as a whole will be affected, will be targeted. And we said this to Prophet Yahweh Shai, especially dealing with Issachar, and Gad being the starting with them, dealing with ICE, taking up Jake. But we also said the Southern Kingdom, will be targeted, will be taken up, and look what's happening. So the 12 tribes as a whole is going to be affected, going to be targeted. War is, what's what I'm looking for? War is on you Jakes. I was trying to find another word to, go along with that better, but war has been declared, declared on you Jakes, man, you Israelites. But if we're going to further play this, and I'll further expound on these points. You want?
What are you afraid of? If you're going to go out and you're going to do enforcement, provide an ID. Tell us which agency you represent. Provide us basic information that all local law enforcement is required to provide. I'll be signing a...
So really, you're getting ready to see his devil, come down with that great wrath. Because I made that point earlier, you already see people, somewhat beginning to retaliate, setting up ICE. And there's one particular video which I'm guessing some of you may have seen it, but where you had a Issachar, so-called Mexican, getting, pretty much taken down. You had these two ICE agents on him, but you had, people around him, yelling at these agents, telling them to get off of him, and, pretty much, helping him out. And pretty much near the end of the video, they end up releasing him, getting in their car and speeding off. And you had tons of people pretty much run after the car, saying, "Yeah, stay away, this and that, get the F out of here." So you already begin to see the division. And we said through this Pimp How Shema Shai that Trump would be used as that catalyst to kick up, and stir up division, to bring about chaos. And you see, he's being that cruel lord. All these Jakes can taking up, walking like a regular person, or going to their job. Jake, taking their kids to the park, getting taken up. These are the things that we are seeing. So we got this first video. Just read the caption. It says, California is now the first state to ban ICE agents from wearing masks or face coverings that obscure their identities while on duty. So there's also another video, and we actually see what's in these comments first off. As MAGA refused to wear masks in 2020 and now wanting to wear masks in 2025. Same guys who refused to mask up in 2020. But now let's continue on.
If Congress will...
And this is the other one. As the Chicago mayor aims to establish ICE-free zones with new executive order. So you're seeing that division, that divide that is taking place. And it's in the scriptures that we would see these things, man. And we have been prophesying through the Spirit of Yahweh Shema Shai of the things to come. And as we progress light into days, people are going to soon, come to know that the prophets have been among them and that the prophets were right. And you're going to have that light bulb moment. It's like I'm kind of rambling, but Lord's will, I'm getting the point across. So to play his last video and get a couple scriptures, and that'll be the point.
Not check this administration, then Chicago will. Today, we are signing an executive order aimed at reining in this out-of-control administration. The order establishes ICE-free zones. That means that city property and unwilling private businesses will no longer serve as staging grounds for these raids.
So you're obviously going to see, the pushback against these things, and what's further, pushing that divide and the division. Because really, you're also, getting ready to see martial law pretty much be declared, which you are pretty much already seeing it. Dealing with all these troops that are being sent out, these ICE agents that are patrolling, and how it pretty much started with Washington, D.C. dealing with these National Guard troops, and how it trickled on down to these 19 other states, if not more, a whole lot more now. But you're pretty much conditioning and preparing you, for when martial law is declared. So you are pretty much used to seeing these troops around you, troops in your city, your state, This devil begins to tighten that grip.
School parking lots are not for ICE to...
especially from these situations that you are seeing, dealing with ICE and the retaliations that people are going to make and wanting to fight back. That's just going to lead this devil, further, tighten, that grip even more.
Load their weapons. They are for...
going back to 2 Kings 15 and 15 through 17, going to that sedition among men. Because you have been seeing these riots and protests pretty much across the world. And what you're getting ready to see over here in Babylon the Great. And what you have been seeing these, protests, in general. But now it's just going to be, heightened. Especially as these, days go on. Dealing with these ICE agents, these troops that are pretty much, going down on Jake. Which they have been given the go-ahead to pretty much do whatever they want, to be justified when they end up, overly abusing you to take you down, put you in cuffs, because they were given the nod, the go-ahead to do so. Because usually you'll see videos regarding either policemen or just troops in general, overly, doing something to Jake, and you have videos will pop up, and people will get on them for this. They end up either getting so-called fired, or getting transferred, whatever the case may be. But now, they could care less, because they were given the order from on top that they could do whatever they want. So just going to show us how bad the times that we are in. Made that point earlier, dealing with Jeremiah chapter 30 verse 7. Hey, we're in those times. Most of you Israelites are the target, man. So it's why it's important to be on the hedge and the protection of Yahweh Shema Shai. But I don't want to veer too far off topic. Let's finish the rest of this video and get the scriptures.
Chicagoans who drop their kids off to learn. Our libraries are not for ICE to prepare for a raid. They're for Chicagoans to read and relax. Our parks are not for ICE to set up checkpoints. They are for Chicagoans to play and enjoy. Private establishments can partner with us to make it clear that private property is private property, and ICE cannot enter establishments without a valid warrant. Private entities may voluntarily choose to display signage to designate their property as part of a citywide network of community spaces that stand together in affirming the safety, dignity, and belonging of all of our residents. By extending this protection beyond city-owned land, the order builds a broad civic shield that limits the reach of harmful enforcement practices. It strengthens neighborhood solidarity, and it reaffirms Chicago's role as a welcoming city. If Congress will not check...
So you're seeing that division, you're seeing that divide. Going back to the point of this whole lesson, that civil war, is brewing. See what these comments have to say. Chicago never failed, and Handmaid's Tale. And says they will be arrested for violating this order, right? So you may see some of that, which may also cause further, division. Decrees being made to where the states are now aren't able to make these, types of decisions. It's gonna get better here. But those are the points. Now let's get these scriptures. I didn't want to make this too big of a lesson, but it's something that I came across just the other day. But it's Isaiah 19:2, so we're reading the King James, and we'll get another translation for edification's sake. Now it says, "And I'll set the Egyptians against the Egyptians." Now I'm not speaking of ancient Egypt, but modern day Egypt. Which you'll get in the book of Revelations. I want to say 11th chapter, going to Babylon the Great, aka America, spiritually being Sodom and Egypt. So, going to show who those modern day Egyptians are speaking of now. Let's finish this off and get the other translation. Now, set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. Now, let's get the GNT. Now, look what this says. This is what it's going to read it. Let's read it. The Lord says, "I will stir up civil war in Egypt." I mean, you can't get any clearer than that. The Lord says, "I will stir up civil war in Egypt and turn brother against brother and neighbor against neighbor. Rival cities will fight each other, and rival kings will struggle for power." There you go. So once you're seeing, the division, the divide, people are not agreeing with the decisions that are being, put into place, the decisions that Trump is making. As you're clearly seeing, they're making, laws to counteract the things that he's pretty much doing. These troops that are invading and pretty much doing whatever they want with no trouble, pretty much. But you're most definitely gonna see things obviously progressively worse, because this is a step towards martial law being declared, and this is pretty much just getting you conditioned and used to it, pretty much, because there is obviously a reason these National Guard troops and or just going back to that point, National Guard troops being sent out to these various states, and as you're obviously seeing these ICE agents, being able to use helicopters and all these, weaponry, these vehicles, transportation, all this stuff. But Matthew 12:26, and it says, "And if Satan casts out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand?" So this is also a sign that this devil's kingdom is coming to an end. This division that you are seeing. See, the NLT says, "And if Satan is casting out Satan, he's divided and fighting against himself. His kingdom will not survive." Especially when it's people, is going against, the people in power, especially just, amongst each other. Now, there's Mark 3:24, "And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand." So, it is clear. It's got to do more scriptures. There's Matthew 24:3-8, and really the main point I want is just verse 7. Now, I'm going to jump to verse 3, and on down to verse 7, just to get the points. "And as he sat upon Mount Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? What should be signs of thy coming and of the end of the world?" So it's a list of the end time signs and things that we would see now take place before Lord Yahushua shall return. Verse 7, "For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. And also to read verse 8, all these are the beginning of sorrow." So this is just the start, just the beginning. Especially dealing with Jeremiah chapter 13, verse 7, which, pretty much already in the midst of it, And it's obviously going to be, pretty much a snowball effect. It's only going to pick up. Because when you already see various people heavily against, ICE and the things they're doing, where you have people being taken up, children being taken up, and I mentioned that one video earlier, dealing with that one Jake, Issachar being held down by these two ICE agents, and how they pretty much, booed out the arena. I said, pretty much kicked out of town, just, get out of here. People were pretty much hoping that Jake out, so ultimately you're getting ready to see a lot more people, begin to get riled up, especially when, Jake, begins to stand up, starting with, the tribe of Judah, as well as the other tribes, following. And really you're also just seeing, Jake, begin to, stand together, and are especially beginning to somewhat find out, who, the true enemy is, which is, Esau, Edom. Jake is, now someone starting to come to that realization. Because now you have these, protests. You will have, Jake standing with each other. Whether it be the southern and northern kingdom. And it's also, biblical prophecy on our people, coming back together. But the second is 15:15-18. And just going back to that point, the point I was going to make, you're going to definitely see retaliations going out, and riots breaking out. Because you already had one woman, taken out, I believe, from ICE, shooting her down. You also had another video where you had ICE saying "F them kids," So you're obviously getting ready to see something kick off, and really that's what this devil wants in order to gain, that control. So it's just all gonna go down, or I say, it's getting ready to, go down. But 2 15 and 15 to 18, for the sword instruction draw 9, when people shall stand up and fight against another with swords, fight up against another and swords in their hands. What is the modern day sword? These guns, these weapons. Verse 16, for there should be sedition among men. And that word sedition goes into the word riot/rebellion. And it says, invading one another should not regard their kings nor princes in the course and actual stand in their power. Who are the kings and princes? The people in authority, people in power. Your mayors, your presidents, And also, you had just add on further onto that point, civil war brewing, which I was watching one of the other brothers' lessons, but you mentioned one of these points where I forget the exact state. I believe it was in Chicago, which is mainly where you're seeing these things happening. But where you had the police force saying that we're not going to help ICE, pretty much. So we'll see where that leads. But hey, division is being stirred, and we said this to us, but how push my shove the things that you're getting ready to see, But let's continue on. Verse 17, a man shall desire to go into the city and shall not be able. So as you see further chaos, begin to erupt, division being made, you're most definitely going to see curfews, lockdowns, checkpoints being held, especially when this MOT becomes into play. But verse 18, for because the pride cities shall be troubled and the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. So what is chaos is just getting ready to erupt in general. But 2 9 1 through 4, and it says, he answered me and then said, measure all time diligently in itself. How do we measure the signs that we are in, or the times we are in, via these signs and prophecies? And see part signs past, which really before, then shall to understand that it is the very same time when highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Verse 3, another main point. Therefore, when there is seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, and that's what we are seeing, uproars of the people, especially in the world. Now, I just remember, a week or two ago, I think a little over 2 weeks ago, going to all these riots and protests you've been seeing in Indonesia, Nepal, Thailand, and be over there in Thailand, you had martial law declared, I believe I've even titled a lesson, coming to a city near you is what you're ready to see. There's a reason why you're seeing, thousands of troops being sent to these various states. ICE being given pretty much authorization to go ahead to do pretty much whatever they want, to carry these, assault rifles, ARs, all these different weaponry. As I made that point earlier, pretty much, getting used to, pretty much troops being around you. Pretty much getting you ready for martial law. Now then shall they understand the Most High spake those things from the days that before thee, even from the beginning. So that's the point right there. Slacky feels kind of a longer type of lesson. I, rambled on certain points, but as you can also get in Habakkuk 23, I briefly brought that up earlier, dealing with these visions are set for an appointed time. We're in these appointed times as written and spoken within Scripture. So just further going to show how close we are to the end of this place. As we've read in 2 9, going to measuring the times we were in via these signs, via these prophecies, and you're seeing the sedition among men, 2 15, as well as Jeremiah 13:7. Deal with the time of Jacob's trouble. So a lot of things are happening. Things are going down. Prophecy is speaking, man. Division is being stirred, which is really the whole point. It's a lesson dealing with civil war brewing. That pot is being stirred. And you have governors, pushing out laws to counteract these forces that are being sent out, taking up people and all these different things. So people are obviously not agreeing with Trump's decisions and decisions that are going out. And this is going to be stirred up a lot more. So That's it right there. I don't close out. Give all praise, all honor, all glory to Yahweh, Bashem, Hashem, Bashem, Krakadash, and Shalom. See you next one, Lord's will.